But I think now we're getting to the point where there's ample opportunity to make money both in the physical bullion and especially in mining shares and especially in the majors.
Yeah, let's move over to gold and silver right now. I know that among our audience, there are people who have been quite disappointed in the performance of the precious metals this year. So maybe you could weigh in on that and how this may connect back to what's going on in the overall stock market. What do you see going on there right now?
So there's a wonderful graph that's put out, and I know you'll be showing it, and it really put together almost 40 years of how investment sentiment works in financial markets. And on one extreme at the top is the ultimate excitement, can't miss, party on, dudes. And that is where stocks and things like Bitcoin are. On the opposite end, on the bottom, is desponsory, depression, loss of hope. That's what gold and silver is right now for even the most ardent bulls who have created this feeling that because it's not skyrocketing like everything else, and they're listening to the Bitcoin maniacs that gold is dead and all this other stuff that comes out, even though it managed to surpass and survive for 4,000 years when all sorts of other paper currencies have come and gone. I've never seen such an extreme between one group and another. But I do know this. Everything's a pendulum. And let me explain a fact to show it. When I started way back in the dinosaur age of the early 1980s, the Dow had only traded between 700 and 1,000 for decades. Real pessimism, interest rates have been 20%, inflation was double digit, Japan, not China, was going to be taking over the world. Business Week ran a magazine cover page that became very famous years later. It said equities are dead. And that's basically how everybody felt on Wall Street. Then this unknown newsletter writer at the time named Robert Prechter Jr. from the Elliott Wave Theory came out with a prediction and said it's going to 3,700. Well, he was mocked, and he helped me a lot in my career. That's why I always like to tell this story. And when the Dow finally got to 2,700, then had its crash, and then went long ago through 3,700, no one mocked them anymore. Well, if you can swing that pendulum now and go to the other extreme. Imagine that ride we used to go on as a kid that swung from this, that. We're all the way on the other side. Now the stock market can't miss. Inflation, and well, until recently, wasn't even a concern. Interest, all the things that were opposite. And where's gold and silver? It's on the other end. It's on that end that no one gives it any hope. So, like I said earlier, is the very least I can say about gold and silver is I have far less fear of losing principal right now owning that than I do the equity. But I think now we're getting to the point where there's ample opportunity to make money both in the physical bullion and especially in mining shares and especially in the majors, who I never have witnessed make such an amount of free cash flow. You know, all the years I was involved with majors, they got into debt issues, they struggled to pay bills. Now they're kicking off free cash flow that a technology company would love to have. So I really think we've gone on the extremes, and I understand because we're at that, when you see that graph, we're at that level where just about everybody's despondent. And that's when you have to buy. And unfortunately, it's the toughest time to do it, but that's always when you have to.
Now, you mentioned uranium, and this is another commodity that we've talked about in the past. I know that you've been really optimistic about it, and things have gotten really interesting this year for uranium, and we've seen a lot of movement. I know you were positive on what was coming, but did what's happened this year, this quick price increase, is that what you expected?
Well, as you know, I said I believed at the time when I was buying it well over a year ago that it would end up being the best bull market I personally would be involved in. I still believe it has a lot higher to go, but I believe if you want to call it the easiest money has been made. And if you look at that chart again, it's it's probably right now somewhere between hope, relief, and just getting to optimism. It's just starting to be accepted that, hey, the argument that we were given a year ago about supply versus demand, I don't know if you recall that even before Sprott came out with their offering, I felt that there would be investment groups that would start offering the ability to purchase uranium, and that would help the price go up. And of course, not only Sprott do it, which really kicked off the bull run, but now we have the Pakistan investment group through their uranium plays starting one too. So the argument is clearly now understood and being listened to by more and more people. We've seen 300, 400, 500% gains in stocks in 12 months or less. I don't think we're going to get 500% in the next year. So I think that the easy part has been made. It also can be somewhat tempered by a sharp correction or bear market in stocks early on. But the argument that we presented a year ago about the need for energy, at the end of the day, nuclear has to be part of it, is only growing. And it's an amazing turnaround when people a year or two ago that would say, they'll never allow in such a country a nuclear plant. Now they got plans for 10 or 20 of them. So it's still a great story. It's past the early stages, but at best, it's maybe the third or fourth inning of a 9-inning game.
Yeah, I think definitely what we're seeing emerge right now is kind of two groups of uranium investors. You have the people who got in early and now they've seen some gains, and people who are now just realizing, oh, maybe I should have been in there, and they want to enter. So do you have any specific advice for those two groups of people and how they might play it differently or similarly?
What I've always said from day one, when I first turned bullish, almost 2 years ago, things like Cameco were at $8. So many of these stocks are now up 300, 400%. It's a unique situation where you can count on your hand, at most both hands, the number of actual producers and companies that you can play publicly for it. Where in technology, you can buy 1,000 different types of technology stocks. So I've always stated in this belief of this bull market, you had to start with the major producers, and there aren't that many. And of course, I use Cameco as the bellwether. I think once you get past that and you look at some of maybe the emerging ones where they're close to building a mine, or the mine is close to coming into production, the problem is for the utility companies, they can't speculate and make a deal with somebody that may have a uranium mine built and production in the next 5 to 7 years. They have to go to the handful of producers. That's why I always felt that at the end of the day, the Cameco of the world, you start with first. But in bull markets, and this one is not really mature yet, it's really just getting going, it's past the first stage, a lot of the boats get risen. So a lot of the little juniors and anybody that's saying they're looking for it and maybe drilling or something can get caught up in this lift. But I think the more conservative you are, you start at the top with the producers and you work your way down, versus start at the bottom and just have maybe a little sprinkling of the producers. I think this is where you err, in my view, especially if you're not going to be investing for 5 or 10 years. This is where you invest on the producers before the expiration comes.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.